but I want you to look at the building over here, which we're standing in front of it. It consists of 2 floors, 2 stories. All right? The upper floor consists of 2